So, this is Bobby Hecht, and you're a fiddle player based in Brooklyn. So how old were you when you started playing music?
I was 3.
That's really young.
Probably drums first, yeah.
When did you start playing fiddle?
Around the same age, but my dad had a basement full of stuff, which I'm sure you're familiar with, so whatever I could get my hands on, I would mess around with, and yeah.
So how were you introduced to bluegrass?
My dad took me to, there was some different bluegrass festivals that happened around Illinois, and
Is that where you're from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he would take me, and I think pretty early on got to meet like Casey Dreesen and Noam Pikelny and a few different guys around that area that would come to the festivals, and we were all dorky little kids running around playing bluegrass.
Cool. So what drew you to playing bluegrass?
I think Casey was just hearing him play and the kind of fire that he would play with, and also he immediately showed me like David Grisman and Bela Fleck and the Drive album, and just hearing those tunes, I got obsessed pretty quickly.
Okay, so you're not from New York.
Mm-mm.
Why did you move to New York City?
It's a good question. Why am I still here?
Yeah, you've been here a while. What's
Yeah.
keeping you?
I like that New York goes through different phases. I think when I moved here, I was in like the Five Deadly Venoms with Elio and Rick, and it was like one of my first times like actually being in a band, and just that feeling of like camaraderie with Jared and James and everybody was really neat to like, we're gonna go on tour, we're gonna get in a van, and we're just gonna like see what happens. And yeah, and I think and I met Dennis pretty early on, and Dennis was really into bluegrass and I love in New York too that like after a few years I was like, okay, cool, this is New York, maybe I'll move. And then the Punch Brothers moved here, and I was like, oh geez, okay, I'm gonna stay and see what happens next, and that keeps happening over and over again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So was it what you expected when you moved here? Like,
Oh, not at all. I feel like I had the option of, there's like the big music cities like Nashville, New York, and like different. I was like, I could go to Nashville, but I really dislike new country music, so
yeah,
I don't
that'd be a bad idea.
I figured I was like, oh, I'll get a job that pays really well, and I'll just hate the music. So I stayed away from Nashville, but
yeah.
No offense, everybody.
So how long have you been living here?
I've been here since 2006, so like, I think that's 13 years, yeah.
Have you seen the scene here evolve?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I told that Punch Brothers story, and I remember one night where it was a Michael Davis jam back when it was at Parkside Lounge, and that was kind of like I was speaking of Nashville. I was like, maybe I'm gonna go to Nashville and just be around like the players down there. And then at the Parkside Lounge, Gabe Witcher walked in, probably with Noam or something, and I was like, what are you guys doing here? And then that like totally kept me in New York, and also doing the bluegrass stuff. But then also around that time, I was playing in a Brazilian band, and I called Casey on the phone, and he's like, the cool thing about New York is you're gonna get these calls to do things that in Nashville just don't exist.
Yeah.
And like last week, I played with the tap dancer Savion Glover, and we just did like,
that's cool.
It was like free improvisation with him, and very rhythmic and fun. And I've never played with a dancer before.
Did you also tap dance?
Yeah, everybody left.
That would happen if I did too.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll let you keep going. I'm rambling.
No. Go for it. Yeah. So you go to a lot of jams in New York, yeah?
I do, but I'm also definitely guilty of, thinking, do I want to go to the jam, or do I like want to wake up and get stuff done in the morning? And so I think I'm just getting older. I'm like, I don't go to the jams as much anymore. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you did go to them, did they have like a big effect on how the music was changing here?
Yeah, they do, because especially at Mona's, like when I used to go a lot, Rick would pick out a different record to do like once a month, and we would do like probably records I hadn't even really closely listened to, and I feel feel like we should be doing stuff like that more often. Just like, I feel like the really important nights in New York are when you see like tribute to Emmylou Harris or like these different songwriters or Graham Parsons that people like. And I think they just did a Bill Monroe one, didn't they, at Jalopy, I think.
Yeah, they did like a Bill Monroe birthday thing.
Or John Hartford, yeah, like all those nights are great for learning new tunes. And,
they're not really jams, but yeah.
Yeah.
They do like shows.
Yeah, but the jams are nice too, just for like, because a lot of times people are on the road and the place to go see and hang out with them is at the jam sessions. So, yeah.
So there's a pretty strong scene here. Like there's a jam every night.
Mm-hmm.
And different shows every night. Why do you think it's able to do so well here? Because like this music is commonly like associated with like the South and not really New York City, you know?
Yeah, I guess I always think about that Washington Square Park thing though, with like the folk thing there and like, and I think that the music, like the roots of, there's like the bluegrass that is more like the Southern and the gospel thing, but then there's also like the like Bob Dylan and the Woody Guthrie and all these like Norman Blake, like they're just really good at, and Tony Rice, all like crafting songs, and I feel like that is very much like the New York thing. But then it is hard, because then if you're like, because those guys that are from down south, you just hear them play and you're like, I don't understand. Like if you're like you're like, I want to get into bluegrass, you're like, wait, these guys could do this when they were like 13 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just put out a record, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's called Lights Out.
Or Lights On, Kinks Out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired that?
That was like your typical like country song. Oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, I'm gonna make a record. I guess it really was like Adam Buchwald, who's from here. I saw one of his guitars at Mandolin Cafe.
Yeah.
Which is, how everything starts is on Mandolin Cafe.
That's very true.
and then I drove up to Burlington, Vermont in a blizzard, as one does. And by the time I got there, I was like, well, I'm alive, I'm not in the ditch, so I'm gonna buy this guitar. And then as soon as I got the guitar, these songs started coming out. I think it was like years and years of playing, being the sideman, being the fiddle player, but then like obviously loving this music for the lyrical side of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wrote most of the songs on the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So how does your like guitar songwriting differ from like your fiddle writing?
Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing on the guitar.
Okay.
And I also put to make it even more accessible, I put the guitar in like the Irish guitar tuning, like dadgad. I don't know if you've ever. Yeah. Like it's like a dobro, which is like a big open chord, or banjo, and then so I can put down a finger and I'm like, oh, there's a D chord, and just I guess through that, like on fiddling, it's always unless you're doing like old timey stuff, it's all pretty much like single note. But then on guitar, it just gives you a nice drone, almost like Indian music or something. But, yeah.
Oh, it's over here.
Oh, okay.
Do you want it?
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm good.
Okay. I'm sorry about this next question.
What did you write down?
If you could describe music in one word, what would it be?
One word. Cathartic?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a new one. No one said that yet. That's pretty good. Someone said, someone said sun once.
Sun?
Yeah.
Moon.
Yeah.
Sorry, whoever answered that.
Okay, so I've heard you talk a lot about like mindfulness in music and stuff. What does that mean? Like, what do you?
That's like a lot of people who play music are. It's like you have this talent, but then I almost feel like, try not to like get too far off the question, but That's basically has to do with anxiety, I think, more than anything. That you're like, what am I playing? Who's in the room? Like all these variables that distract you from being present. And I'm definitely guilty of that. Like at the album release show, the lights were really low, so I couldn't really see the audience, and it was like perfect. I was like, there's no anxiety. Like I know that Larry's there and Kate's there, and like like all the people, like who's in the audience, but like. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are anxiety inducing or just distracting, like kind of like a dog seeing a squirrel kind of problem. So I with me personally, it's like I like stopped drinking, and I also like started meditating more, just because I was like, I just want to be present for it. I kind of feel like music is this thing we're given, that's not to sound like too preachy, which I already sound, but like it's like we're kind of like, we get this opportunity that a lot of people don't get. A lot of people like, you know, it's like you have your basic human necessities, like, all right, I'm going to make money, I'm going to go on cool vacations, blah, 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 blah. But I think like music is kind of one of those like cool superpower things that we have that other people don't get to experience. And so it's cool to, I don't know. Anyway, that's my spiel.
It's a great spiel. How would you say it like influences your music that you write and what you play?
I think, yeah, well, it's funny because I recently got a review back about my record that was like that magazine No Depression, and I love the review because the first time the guy listened to the record, he's like I don't know, like it's kind of like slow and just, you know, like probably like meditation music or something. You're just like, this is boring. And then the second time he's like, oh wait a minute, there's some layers here. And then the third time he's like, this isn't half bad. And so like it's kind of like. And I think that my like music correlates with that mindfulness and kind of with being more like we were saying, cathartic or like therapeutic, to write these songs that are like can be devastatingly happy or sad, but like it's nice that they're emotion, not just like your like radio bubblegum kind of like stuff. So.
Well, I liked it a lot.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely not bluegrass.
No, but I liked it. How long did it take you to write that?
The songs were pretty quick. They're like, I try to write like a song a day if I can, and then at least, even if you're not writing great stuff, you're at least picking the guitar up every day and trying to write something. But it was one of those things where like the first meditation, I went to this meditation retreat when I was 20. And when I went, I was like, wow, I need this so much. You just find something in your life that like you're missing, and that was the same with writing songs. So it is kind of like daily therapy.
Sorry to change the subject, but you play like jazz too. When did you start playing that?
In junior high, or was it junior? No, more like high school. I like kind of got into the jazz stuff, but I think that the first jazz tune that like grabbed my attention was Mark O'Connor had this tune called Sweet Suzanne, and it was kind of like this challenge. I was like, well, this tune is crazy, but let me try to learn it. And Mike Barnett has a tune called Bottom of the Barrel that I tried to learn too, and they're both like these real swingy, crazy, like fun beboppy tunes. But the music, that stuff just kind of grabbed me. It's fun, and it can be really playful, and it was interesting too, because I remember being at camp. There was always like, you had like the jazz kids would go this way, and like the old timey kids would go this way, and like, but I'd always be like, I want to go do this, but I also want to go see what's going on with like, because it'd always be like Bruce Molsky and Brittany Haas. So, but
sounds like tough decisions.
It's hard. Life's hard.
Yeah. Okay, so you said that you started playing fiddle when you were really little. What was it like? Because there's always like bluegrass and old time aren't like the popular kinds of music. So what was that like growing up playing? Oh,
I guess I was playing popular music because my dad was doing country gigs, so I was going to play like 90s country, which was popular growing up, and so that was kind of neat to do a gig. I was doing these gigs every week that were like for really like tiny versions of like the Grand Ole Opry, and we would have a guest artist, but it was always Stuart Duncan or Mark O'Connor on those recordings, so, or Aubrey Haney, so I was like learning all their solos. So even though it wasn't like bluegrass, it was still, you still had like Marty Stewart and Ricky Skaggs and these guys that were bluegrass guys doing country. Yeah. But it was still, but you're right, it was still like, I was still kind of like the dork in school. I'm like, I don't want the kids to find out I'm doing these gigs.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is my last question for you. But what draws you to play now? Is it different from like when you were younger?
Yeah, it is different. I think that probably a big problem as a musician is that you're like to be somebody in their mid-30s who's still kind of like struggling financially and like and living in an expensive city like New York, that like sometimes you're just like, why am I still doing this to myself, or like, but I think that the older, like in the 20s it was kind of like this, oh, I want to be successful and whatever, blah 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 blah, and then now it's like even if you're doing like a little restaurant gig or something, it's still a chance to practice and get better and share music with other people, obviously. So, and I lose sight of that. Even as I'm talking now, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm entertaining people, and this is like I have to go play in Times Square tonight, which is gonna be what it is. But at least
it's gonna be cold.
It's gonna be cold. I'll be inside.
Oh.
Thank goodness.
You didn't clarify that.
Oh yeah, and I'll be.
You said in Times Square.
Yeah, and I won't be at busking. Thank goodness.
Okay.
But it'll be, it'll just be like a loud bar, but people will still be entertained. So they need joy too, even in Times Square.
Yeah. It'd be cool if you played in Times Square, like in the middle of Times Square. Mm-hmm. That seems like a pretty fun place to play. Okay, well, thank you very much for talking to me.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay.
All right. One, two.